cook. There was once a cook called Hansel. Every day, before going into the kitchen, he would take a good draught of wine to smarten himself up. Since wine gave him an appetite, he would always taste some of the dishes that he was cooking.
The cook must know how the food tastes.
He would say to himself. It so happened that one day his master said to him,
Hansel, I have a guest coming tonight. Roast me 2 fowls in your best style. It shall be done, sir,
said Hansel. So, towards evening, he killed the chickens and dressed them. Then, he put them near the fire to roast. They got brown and crisp, but still the guest did not come. Then, Hansel called to his master,
Sir, if the guest is not coming, I must take the fowls from the fire. It will be a pity if they are not eaten while they are hot and juicy.
The master said,
You are right, Hansel. I'll go and hasten the guest myself.
As soon as the master turned his back, Hansel laid the fowls on one side and said to himself,
It is thirsty work standing over the fire so long. Who knows when they'll come? In the meantime, I'll take a sip of wine.
So, he went down into the cellar and took a good pull at the bottle.
Drinking leads to drinking.
He said,
And it's not easy to give it up.
And again he took a good pull. Then he went up into the kitchen and put the 2 fowls over the fire again. He poured some butter over them and turned them around. They smelled so good that he said to himself,
How can I help tasting such a thing?
Hansel passed his finger over the fowls and put it into his mouth.
Ah, how delicious they are. It's a pity that there is nobody to eat them.
Hansel ran to the window to see if his master was coming with the guest, but there was no one in sight. Again he went back to the fowls and said to himself,
One wing is catching a little. Why not eat it up?
So he cut it off and ate it with much relish. When it was finished, he thought,
The other must follow, or the master will notice that something is missing.
When the wings were finished, he again went to the window to look for his master, but he saw none coming.
Who knows?
He thought,
They may not come at all. They might have dropped in somewhere else to eat.
Then he said to himself,
Now, Hansel, don't be afraid and eat it all up. Why waste such good food?
Once again, Hansel went down into the cellar and took a good drink. Then he came back into the kitchen and ate up the rest of the fowl. When it had all disappeared, there was still no sign of his master. Now, Hansel looked at the other fowl and said,
Where one is gone, the other must follow.
He took another hearty pull at the bottle and with great relish sent the other fowl after the first one. But oh, at the height of his enjoyment, the master came and said,
Hurry, Hansel, the guest is just coming. Right, sir,
answered Hansel, looking a little confused.
I'll soon have everything ready.
The master went to see if the table was properly laid. He took the big carving knife with which he meant to cut up the fowls. Finding it a bit blunt, he went to sharpen it in the backyard. In the meantime, the guest came and knocked politely at the door. Hansel ran to see who there was. Seeing the guest, he brought his forefinger to his lips and said,
Shh, please, sir, don't say anything and get away quickly. If my master catches you, it will be the worse for you. He certainly invited you to supper, but only with the intention of cutting off both your ears. You can hear him sharpening his knife.
The guest heard the sound of the knife being sharpened. He was so filled with fear that he ran away as fast as he could. Hansel came back to his master and said,
A fine guest indeed you have invited, sir. Why? What's the matter, Hansel?
asked the master in surprise.
How strange!
Replied Hansel.
Your guest has run off with both the fowls that I had just laid on the table. That's a naughty joke,
said the master.
He should have left me at least one so that I could have something to eat.
The master called out to the guest to stop, but the frightened guest pretended not to hear. Still holding the carving knife in his hand, the master ran after the guest, crying,
Only one! Only one!
He simply meant to say that the guest should leave him at least one fowl to eat. But the guest thought that the man was asking him for his one ear, and he started running even faster, as if he was being chased by some mad dog. And when at last he reached home, he thanked God for protecting both his ears.